Are live.
Live.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. How's everything in your world today?
You know, the rain has stopped. Went on a crazy adventure yesterday.
Yeah?
Yep. Went to find a place to swim that I hadn't been to since college, and totally ended up out in the back roads of Vermont, like parked in somebody's driveway, and there was like this trail to the reservoir, but it clearly was not a public trail, and so
Right.
it's like these weird black SUVs parked in the driveway of like this cabin up in the woods, like Rhode Island plates. I was like, this is weird. This is sketchy. So my Google Maps took me off in like a totally the wrong place. I mean, if we had walked another half a mile down this trail, we would have ended up at the reservoir that we were aiming at, but
But it was not to be.
not the, and so turned around and spent an extra half hour getting back to where we should have been in the first place. Finally found this awesome reservoir, and it was largely unpopulated due to like pending thunder and lightning storms that had been on and off all day long, and we weren't sure if it was going to be clear or not by the time we got there. Finally got there, everything cleared up, awesome swimming, and then we decided to continue exploring. And then we ended up stumbling on this secret nude beach in the woods. So funny. There were like these signs in the woods that was like, beware, nudity forthcoming. There's these signs on this trail in the woods. It's just so funny that we're like, it was like, they were like printed out like light green pastel, printed off a printer and then like put in one of those 3-hole punch like plastic sleeves and then pinned to these trees so that they would, they'd been there for however many years or whatever. And sure enough, like turned around in this clearing and there's this beautiful outlook and like all these rocks and like a small group of very naked people. And it was just a hilarious scene. We didn't end up staying at the nude beach, but it was a good find.
Are you into the nude beach scene?
I never have been. But
Yeah, I can't imagine myself being into it either.
But it was still really funny. Yeah, I
Sure.
can't say that I've ever been in the nude beach scene, but I'm more interested as I get older, I suppose. I don't know. It seems less weird now.
I don't know, man. Maybe because you care less, or because I mean, like as I get older, shit starts drooping.
Oh, I didn't even think about that kind of stuff. I guess I tend to be pretty like, I don't know, not that self-conscious anyway. For better or worse, oftentimes for worse, I tend to get myself into trouble without thinking about it, But managed to keep my bathing suit on at the and we decided as a group to not go and venture into the nude beach on that particular visit. It's very funny. All right, so I think we're going to talk about funnels now rather than nude beaches in the woods.
Well, right on. We've got in Art of Email Marketing, we've got Jan who just commented the evolution of funnels. I love it. I suppose you could put that up, but and then Gene just put something in too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so Jan said the evolution of funnels. I love it. Usually some follow the funnels, others get bogged down by the first or second. I find those who don't follow aren't serious when they start out. They just want to know what I'm doing, not participate or do it too. All right. And here's Gene. Gene says, hey guys. Hey Gene.
And Jacqueline.
Jacqueline is here, bending the spoons. Hello, Jacqueline. Awesome. So let's see, Joshua. You've been on fire lately, coming up with some cool descriptions and ideas for our videos. So the topic today is: will your funnel or funnels evolve or die? And we're going to talk a little bit about leveling up your business so you can make bigger impacts with value-based income for life marketing engines. Your names are so specifically your style. The way
Yeah.
you name stuff is very has a certain tone to it.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm assuming that's a compliment, but maybe not.
It's not really a compliment or not. It's like an accent. It's like like
Yeah.
when you name something, it kind of has a Joshua Shafran ring to it.
It's funny. You reminded me of something that I don't know if I want to let the cat out of the bag on, but hell, it's long since passed. It's 12, 13 years ago. There was I was doing some videos for the project that Dan and I started for the for the CMPS model, and that's when I started the Jackal. And
Right.
I was blurred out and in disguise, kind of like witness relocation with the shadows and the whole thing. And I put it out there, and immediately Matt Gill and Kevin Wilkie both reached out to me. They knew instantly that it was me because my mannerisms didn't change. I mean, even though the voice was distorted and there was no way to recognize me.
But still, the underlying style and probably the marketing style and the types of words that you used in the copy were probably still kind of like your unique signature, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I was still like, no, I denied it, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. They were like, yeah, whatever. And they made fun of the.
Right, that's right.
It was just funny. Anyway, so let's dig in a little bit with what Jan had mentioned, because I think that's pretty cool. The evolution of funnels, love it. Jan, while I'm kind of digging into this a bit, can you kind of share with us what you love about it, and then we can kind of go from there. But so she goes on to say that usually some follow the funnels, others get bogged down by them by the first or second, and I find those who don't follow aren't serious. So you're talking about like how you qualify the people that you want to work with, and how you evolve the funnels, and so are you seeing that your funnels are wearing out faster than than they used to? Are you seeing, like, is there some need to evolve your funnel itself, like from your perspective, not necessarily from your user perspective? Or are your funnels staying pretty evergreen? I'm just curious.
So what are your thoughts on this, Joshua? Like, as we're waiting for Jan to respond, like, what are your thoughts on the current state of people's thinking, or the frustrations or challenges that they're dealing with funnels, and then when you talk about the income for life marketing engines, obviously we want to talk a little bit about what is that all about, and
because of the tech issue
than a funnel, really,
yeah.
But like we want to know. So where are you at in your thinking around the current state of funnels, how people are using them, the types of challenges people are facing?
Well, great questions, and it's evolving, as is the marketplace. And I think, back in the day, the only people talking about funnels, frankly, and when I mean back in the day when I first started out in direct response marketing, which was offline in 1995, 94 timeframe, the only person that was talking about funnels was Gary Halbert, to my recollection. And he was talking about it more as a funnel in terms of how when somebody actually becomes a customer for the first time and become more qualified. He didn't, think about it in terms of prospecting. And so it kind of evolved from there. And I remember when I first built the teaching model online from like about 97 through 2002, 2003, when I was figuring out all this stuff and bringing this stuff online, I actually turned it into in my description, because we had to systemize our training and teach the people that we were recruiting into our business how this all worked. So I actually, mapped out a funnel in a Word document and typed up where the different pieces of it were and how it all kind of fit together so that they could see what would qualify and make it all work. So, in terms of funnels, I think we've evolved to a point where it's almost hit the mainstream, where like people know the lingo, not just IM people, not just info marketers, not just the internet marketers, but where like people are aware, I got to have a funnel, or I've got to have some, and really what they're saying, right, is that they need some sort of systematic approach to their marketing. At
Right.
least that's what.
So, exactly. So the idea of a funnel, right? I mean, it's not, again, it's evolved over time, but it's really not that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's several specific web pages set up in a sequence, right? And it's not in any way limited to just web pages, but this is a really easy way to think about it.
Yep.
Is it's several web pages set up in a sequence that with each step, it reduces the number of people. It narrows people down. That's the funnel shape. And the first web page up here might be your opt-in page, and the second web page might be your thank you page, and the third one might be your confirmation page, and the fourth one might be your it might be your webinar registration page, or it might be a sales letter, right? It might be something else. And then you set up other communication mechanisms to continue to move people along in that process. And then after people buy your first product, then what's the bump, what's the first upsell, what's the continuity program, and what's the follow-up sequence that happens via email or chatbot or whatever behind it. And that's just one example of what one funnel could look like, but it's a pretty common way versus the way non-direct response marketing people do things, which is they throw a bunch of crap up on their blog and they cross their fingers and they're irritated that nobody's buying anything, and they don't understand why, because it's a mess. It's not directed. It's not clear. It's not focused. Right. It's just slapping a bunch of crap up and hoping people will want to give you money for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bringing your client on the ideal journey so that they can raise their level of awareness, their insights, these things. And so it's just haphazard. And when you string all that together and don't have that journey for that prospect or client to follow, then it ends up being haphazard results. But I think something that started to take place is that we think that a funnel solves everything, and that the funnel itself should be the answer.
But it's not. As it
no.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And really, you have to be, concerned with or aware of what is, what are you trying to build, and what stage of the business are you in? Where are you in your business development process and evolution of you as the business, visionary, or practice visionary, whatever that might be, that you got to be aware of what stage that's at and what stage you're at. Basically what I'd like to do, Telman, is do a much better job than I did yesterday on the technical stuff. And I think I figured out how to walk people through the Income for Life 3.0 process, which is what I'm now calling, instead of the 1.0 that I came out with in 2003, 2004 timeframe. It's really evolved and it's gone through several evolutions. And I'd like to kind of map this out and tell a story with it. And I'd love to have your insights on it as we go.
Great.
If that's all right with you.
Yeah. So guys, as we're going, if you have questions, please type them in. And Gene, I see your question about, I need help with mine. And Jacqueline, I see hello. So if you have questions about what Joshua or what I'm saying, please ask them. And if you have questions or pressing needs in and around your funnels and what you're struggling with your funnels, ask them. And we'll do our best to address them either today or in a future live stream if it's a whole nother can of worms. But we want to hear your questions, and we want to do our best to move you forward by giving you some practical, actionable answers. If you've built a funnel and it didn't solve all your business problems, then consider some of the things that Joshua is about to present. This is going to be really, really, really good. So, do you want to share screen, and then how do you want to do?
Yeah, no, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to do it all from inside of my camera feed.
Okay.
So if you can put me full screen, and then I can take over from there and make sure that everything looks
All right, you're full screen.
ducky.
It looks great. Are you using
All right.
Ecamm just from your camera? Interesting.
Yes, and I'm now okay, cool. I'm looking at it there. Awesome. All right, so I've got my iPad here. I may, let me know if anything's out of focus as I go through this, because I'm looking at my iPad, but I've set this up so that hopefully it all makes sense and jives.
Yeah, that
and
looks
you
cool.
should be able.
This is definitely a step in the right direction, I think.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And I can.
Oh, great.
From there. So, all right. So,
Nice
let's just go over.
Those
What?
are some really nice sound effects. I
You
did.
like that? Okay. So, the income for life business development process. So here's the way, like, it's supposed to work, and the way that we think it's going to work in business, right? Where we have, a typical entrepreneur journey where we have income on the vertical axis here, and we have leverage over here. And as we have more leverage, we expect our income to climb, right? And, forever and ever to infinity and beyond, as they say. What I first recognized and pointed out in 2003, 2004, was that there's actually 3 different phases of the business development process. And so phase number 1 is what I call income today type earnings. When you're in the income today category, it's really blocked into 3 different groupings, right? So if we look at this and we kind of zoom in on this portion of the graph here, everything starts in the income today category, where leveraging as your leverage point, because we still need to leverage in order to earn income. Well, down here we're leveraging our time. That's what we're starting out with, right? So, but at a certain point, we all run out of time. So we have 2 choices. We either have, in the income today category, we either have we either have to put in more hours or make the time that we are putting in more valuable. Does that make sense? Anything that you want to add here, or do you want me to just keep rocking with it?
I think you should totally keep rocking.
Okay. So, so we have the time leverage, but at a certain point that caps out, right? That's why there's always a ceiling. And I don't care whether you're doing big launches and you're just leveraging your time and you're making a ton of money. Let's say you're part of the circle that makes millions of dollars on your launches, but the prep work, the time that it takes to build it up and to associate with the people and build the joint ventures. And so you make millions of dollars, but it takes 3-4 months to put it into place. And then you got to recover, you got to service the clients and everything. And so it's still capped out, right? There's only so much that you can do with that strategy, even if you're making a ton of money, or if you're a professional, consultant or freelancer that makes an extraordinary amount of money per hour, like $1,000, $2,000 per hour. The problem is that there's only so much of you to go around, right? So then we move into the second phase of the process, where we start to change what we're leveraging. And I call this income tomorrow type money, which is there's income today, income tomorrow, and income for life in this whole business development marketing systems process, right? And so the thing that changes here is that we start to realize that we're capped out. We're no longer burning out. So we then, if we want our leverage to continue to grow and we want our income to continue to grow, then we have to start leveraging systems. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about the systems in general in just a moment. But basically, when we get to this point, we've got like a system. A funnel is a system, a way of generating new clients with consistency, a way of enrolling new people into your vision with consistency. And so you've got that. And then at a certain point, though, that's going to cap out too. Your systems can only take you so far if you don't change your leverage point again. And at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to move into the third category in this process, which is up here. And notice there's a big gap between, the systems and the income for life for true wealth creation up here, right? That we're leveraging. And at this point, once you get into this category, once your business grows into this category, we have income for life type money where we're building generational wealth, where we're making money in a way that is consistent. And so what we're leveraging down here is what I call CIAs, which stands for continuity income assets. You stack enough of the continuity income assets together, and the assets are what produces the results. So before we just move on here, I just want to kind of talk about the income today category for a second, because a lot of people think that they've moved on from that. And it's a catch-22 because you've got to do enough. It's a balance point where you have to stay in the income today category where you're leveraging your time for money in order to shift into the future things. But if you wait too long, then you get burnt out and the things stop working, and there's a point of diminishing returns on you. There's not enough of you to go around. So the problem, though, that I think a lot of people don't recognize is that, and here's the acid test that you can use to tell whether you're kind of stuck in this category. It's if you stop, you personally, if you stop, does your results stop? Right? Is it dependent on your energy? You're putting it, not a systematic approach. I'm not talking about something that you have put in place that runs with or without you. But if you stop, does it stop? That's just the asset test. And how quickly. And this is something else that we'll get into, and why systems become capped as well, is that how quickly do they stop? Like, they might not stop right away, but if you don't stop, if you don't continue to do the work involved in keeping those systems up and running and leveraging and growing, then at a certain point, even though you may have a longer tail on it, it's going to wear itself out, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, particularly in the entrepreneur lane, is that they don't realize that there's 3 different types of leverage, and they don't have a systematic approach to really think about this in this way. It all starts with time. You got to put in the time. There's time arbitrage, and then your goal should be. I'm saying a big statement here, but your goal at some point is to start to leverage it into systems. And if you want an income for life marketing engine, which is the whole point of this process, then your goal should be to turn the systems into true continuity income generating assets that you stack enough of them together and you truly do have perpetual income, perpetual influence, perpetual impact as a result. Anything before I move on, Tillman?
I'm tracking I'm picking up what you're laying down. This is good stuff as far as I'm concerned. And guys, if you have any questions about anything that Joshua is going over, feel free to chime in, or any aha moments or things that you're noticing about how this might apply to your life or your business. We want to hear about it.
Cool. So you'll notice now that I used to have these all stacked on top of each other, like the all 3 categories were one to the other, like a stair step. They still are, but I realized that there's a point of diminishing returns right here. There's a big gap, and the rules change inside this big gap. And I call this point the zero-sum point, if you will, or the compounding crossroads. So, because what happens at a certain point is that your leverage starts working against you if you don't have the type of leverage that's going to work for you in a way. And this will become a little bit clearer as we start to kind of move down the path here. So let's name these if we can. What I call the entrepreneur or the freelancer that is inside the income today category, I call that the rainmaker, because it's up to you to, enroll people in your vision, to move people. It's up to you. It's not going to work without you creating the vision. So in the beginning of any business, that's where it starts. You got to make the magic happen, and it doesn't work with or without you. And if you move too quickly through this process and try to outsource this, or try to systemize it too soon, which I know I'm guilty of, having had some successes prior to this, I tend to want to leapfrog right to here, even if I haven't, properly laid the foundation to go through this whole point.
Right.
Did you want to add something, Telman?
No, I mean, it's very common because after you have had some success, and you tend to want to get back there faster with your next project, with your, whether it's a webinar that you did, or a funnel that you built, or a membership program that you launched, or a whole new niche that you entered, or a new traffic model that you discovered. Like it's very easy to want to pass that off to someone else before you really have it figured out. For me, it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially since it's easier, and also since, I think a serial entrepreneur like you and I are, we have a tendency to remember the wins that we had and what we did when we had them, and we may move on too quickly, to the next one, before properly laying the right foundation. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to the second one, which is the income tomorrow type category, which we need for stability, the business model stability and our stability. And I call this, or this portion of it, the growth duplicator, because what you're doing as you start to leverage systems, do you remember the first time you ever leveraged yourself, that you were ever able to multiply or duplicate yourself in terms of the results, where the first time that you got a taste of success that wasn't your time leverage, that was something other than your time? And I don't know about you, but I still remember the day that holy shit, this stuff works. Like when I placed an ad, it was offline. It happened to be a direct mail, and it happened to be a two-step classified ad approach to requesting a special report, and then the special report was a direct mail sales letter. So that was my funnel offline in 1996, 97, in that time frame. And so I remember the first time that somebody left a message on the voicemail requesting the report. And I was like, holy shit, it works. I didn't have to do anything for that. And then when I sent them out the letter, and it was like, holy shit, it delivered and people are sending me money. They're sending in the order forms. Holy shit, this stuff works.
Right.
Do you remember that first time?
You're going to laugh.
Yeah.
For me, it was a classified ad as well. I was a hypnotist. I mean, I had a little bit of this with the salsa company back in the day, because that was my first business. And so like the first big order you get, like it's a phone call and you get and somebody sends you a check for a few $1,000s or whatever. That's a big deal, right?
Sure.
But this was different because I still had to make all the salsa, It takes a long time to make 10 pallets of salsa. And so I was a hypnotist, and I was trying to figure out how to systematically get clients, but there was nothing. This is in the early days of the internet, and there was just nothing available for business building methodologies for hypnotists. But I did find for $300, I bought this binder. It was for chiropractors and attorneys, and it had all, because this guy was a chiropractor and an attorney, and he became a direct response marketer. And so he developed all these direct response marketing methodologies for chiropractors and attorneys. And my ex-stepfather was a chiropractor. And so and my dad was a dentist. And so I spent some time in that kind of office environment growing up. and where, high paid, but selling your time, and so I followed his system for chiropractors, except I implemented it for weight loss and for quitting smoking, for hypnosis. And so I had these ads in the newspaper, classified ads. People would read them. They'd call a 1-800 number, and the service that I used was called Pat Live. And the person that always answered the phone was named Pat whenever you called for support, which was really funny because it could be it was male or female. It was Saturday Night Live takeoff, I'm sure. And so I placed these ads, and people would call in to get the free special report from the National Quit Smoking Hotline or the National Weight Loss Hotline, which was a voicemail that I had recorded. And it told them to leave their name and their address in order to get the free special report on how to quit smoking or how to lose weight, and all the, and top 10 ways, to lose weight today or whatever.
Right.
And I was printing them off my printer in my apartment. And I had one of those extra long staplers to, staple it and fold it in half. Fold the 8.5 by 11s in half and send them out in these little booklets. I sent out the booklets, and then people would call me back on the phone, and they'd book a free hypnosis session. And I got everyone's phone number that called in. And so when they left a message, I just told them to let me know if they would like a call for immediate help. And so I would call them for immediate help, let them know who I was, and then I would book a free private hypnosis session, and they'd come in and they'd do a local hypnosis session. I'd hypnotize, I'd tell them that this was a free session, first one in a series, and if they wanted to find out more after it was done, I'd tell them all the details. Right. So they knew something was going to be for sale when they were done, but it was a free $75 hypnosis session, so they can give it a taste.
Yeah.
And
no, I mean, there's the whole evolution, right? You went from Rainmaker to figuring out how to duplicate yourself.
Right.
And at first it was these mailing out the pamphlets. It's not that you stop putting in the time, but you multiplied in the systematic approach, right?
You know where the breakdown was, though? The breakdown was I got bored and I didn't keep on sending out the freaking pamphlets on time. I started procrastinating on the administrative side of the business. Totally fell apart.
Right, which leads us to the next piece of the equation, which is when your systems start breaking down, right? Right. And so what happens there is that at a certain point, let's see, where are we? That everybody can see that, right? I'm on screen with most of this. Okay. Yeah. So the reason why I put a box around this portion right here is that I recognize that there's a point here where somewhere in the systems process, somewhere between being the growth duplicator and you become the system fixer, meaning that the systems start breaking down because they aren't built as a true asset yet. So they start to, meaning that they don't run with or without you. They require you in some capacity because in effect, you have duplicated yourself. You have multiplied yourself. Mm-hmm. But that means that you are still the biggest breakdown in the equation, right? Because you take you with you. And it should be pointed out that all of these things, and the third one that I'm about to put up here, are reliant on your time still. There's still elements of it where you're trading your time for money because you still have to put your time in to develop the systems now. You're getting more leverage out of it. So you have increased your amount of leverage. You're able to go past this, barrier here and go even further. But at a certain point, all of this caps out and starts to break down. Mm-hmm. And that's where, well, I'm going to skip over that for now because I think that's in the wrong spot right now, I think. So what we have at this point is at the very end of the process here, or at the very peak, when this caps out, when all three of these areas cap out, you've now become a professional systems fixer, right? where your entire life as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, as the freelancer comes down to either doing the work yourself, or your work is you're treading water and you're trying to keep from drowning, because as you're doing this, you're fixing the next piece of the process that is no longer duplicating you, right? And so those parts start to break down because there's only so much of you to go around, and you're trying to, kind of Frankenstein the different pieces together. And this is the point where you've got to either evolve your business model, or if you continue to, the definition of insanity that everybody quotes or credits to, I believe Einstein, doing the same things again and again and again, but expecting different results. Well, what ends up happening is that if you continue to deploy linear leverage or transactional leverage, which is what all of these are, the growth duplication, the systems fixer, you're deploying that transactional approach. You've made more money, you've gotten more leverage out of the deal, but there's still a cap here. And what happens is that if you intend to try to get to income for life type business model, or your marketing model where it's a true asset-based engine that's running the program, so to speak, up here, well, then your business has to go through a true evolution at this point, because the type of leverage that you're trying to deploy, the linear leverage, will start to work against you once your business has grown to this point. And that's why I entitled this Evolve or Die. It's an offshoot of Jay Abraham's business model, where he talked about evolve or die, grow or die. And probably either Halbert or John Carton or some Top Gun copywriter is the one that came up with that amazing headline, Grow or Die. And I believe at this point, it's either evolve or die, because what starts to happen is that you've reached the compounding crossroads. And that's this point right here, is that when you get to this point, your type of leverage runs out. And if you don't deploy a different type of leverage or arbitrage, if you will, that's based on an asset arbitrage rather than a kind of like a day trading type arbitrage. And nothing wrong with day trading. You can make a ton of money being transactional in nature, but it does have a cap, because there's only so many good opportunities. Like if you think about the old penny a day cliche type approach, the compounding, where you take a penny and you double it every day for 30 days, and at the end of that 30-day period of the 100% compounding, that penny on day one turns into like $5 million at day 30. The part that nobody talks about, that it seems to be left out, is that you can't get to day 30, because at a certain point it breaks down, because you can't continue to get 100% compounding going on, or the compounding on the compounding, if you're just using linear leverage. So there's a wall and there's a barrier, and for each of us it's different, and the amounts are different, but the concept is still the same. Anything that you want me to make clearer or talk different about, Toman?
No, that all makes sense.
Okay. So here we are at the zero-sum plateau, where it also what I'm calling the compounding crossroads, where your business does have to evolve. And that's what happens in here, where the rules of the game change. And if you continue to apply the same rules that got you here, which, by the way, were necessary to build your business and your success to this point, you couldn't have done it without this type of leverage. But if you continue to deploy it, what's going to happen is that it's going to devolve. You're going to see that you're going to be putting more and more time, and you're going to be treading water harder and harder, and you're going to get less and less results because you're working harder and harder. And you might have tremendous amount of leverage, but your income is going to start to go down. If, however, you evolve with it and you shift into the income for life category, and you really shift into that next stage of the game, where and before we get to that, I guess I should let's see. I don't want to get all of this on the screen if I can. Is that all on there now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So if you, on this side of the equation, right, on this side of the line or the imaginary line going through the center here, you've got linear leverage over here, or what I call day trader arbitrage, where you've got some leverage, you've got some stuff happening. Great. You've got some multiplication, you've got some amplification. Here's a, kind of a graphical depiction of that, where you've got day trader arbitrage. You've got some sort of time and money or systems input, a mixture thereof that's an input. This magic black box, whether that's a funnel, whether it's a, whatever, it now multiplies it, and you've got more than on the, in best case scenario, it's got an increased output. However, it's still day traders arbitrage here, where the funnel or the system is transactional in nature, where if you stop the transaction, it's only as good as the next person going through the system, or the next campaign, or until the Google algorithm changes, or until the next change or shift in the Google's or Facebook's approach to what they favor and what they're looking to accomplish, and what they won't allow anymore. And when that stops working, then your entire success stops working as a result of that, right? But you can, while it is working, you can make a tremendous amount of income underneath linear leverage, underneath transactional type leverage with day traders arbitrage. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's not to be done. It's just that it doesn't give you the maximum leverage. And so if we now look at the other side of the equation here, beyond this, when we evolve past this point, we've got exponential type leverage over here. And we've got asset arbitrage, where we're starting to leverage assets as a result. So, what that ends up looking like, and what I'm calling the CIA type asset, is that your output, your increased output over here, same concept, same kind of time and money mixture and systems going into your black box. But now what your black box is based on asset arbitrage. So what ends up happening is that there's increased output, and that automatically gets fed back to and enhances your input, and it continues. So that's the compounding effect, if you will. Now, when we move back into this portion of the equation, the thing that I don't think we understand is that once we meet this, do you want, basically you can do this, or you can do this, right? And that's what happens that's why what I mean by the rules of the game change at this point. Because when you continue to deploy linear leverage at this point, it starts to divide on itself. Your results start to divide on itself rather than exponentially or geometrically grow upon themselves. So you can either have reverse compounding or positive compounding, right? It either divides on itself, and that penny a day now starts to become less and less and less each day as you're treading water faster and faster, trying to stay afloat, trying to hold your big infrastructure. You've built your systems, you've built your business model, you're fixing the parts as they wear out. But what's happening is that you're trying to hold up something yourself, and it still depends on you. And if you stop treading water at a certain point, you're going to go under, as is the rest of your business model. And so it starts to dissolve backwards on itself and divide on itself and be reduced in nature, rather than continue to amplify up and multiply on itself, which would be, the actual definition of compounding. Compound leverage. And that's the challenge, because where I think people don't realize is that once you reach the compounding crossroads, or that zero-sum plateau point, where it doesn't matter how much energy you put in or how much leverage you seem to get or how many great breakthroughs in the new systems and all of that stuff. What ends up taking place is that it starts to work against you, and you have a reverse compounding effect unbeknownst to you, because it's zero sum, right? Like you've reached the point of diminishing returns, but don't realize that the type of leverage that we've been employing in all three of these areas, whether we're a systems fixer or whether we're a growth duplicator or whether we're still in the rainmaker portion, or whether we're kind of bouncing back between all three and kind of like trying to keep all the plates spinning and that type of thing. That's where we start to get caught up in this process, and there needs to be a plan to evolve it and to have a true business asset. And while I didn't know this at the time, when I first came out with NPod back in, when I first released it based upon the $50 million in gross revenues that I had been able to engineer and create in the business model way back in 99 through 2002, what I didn't realize is that by building a business in the fashion that I was recommending for NPod, I was automatically helping people build a business asset, a perpetual income generating machine. And the asset was the one that was capable of generating the results in your business, even if you were operating transactionally in nature. It was a true business asset in the way that it was engineered into the NPod building process, the net profits on demand building process. All right, now I will take a breath and let you take over for a bit, Telman.
I will actually agree with you on this. It's very interesting. When I first learned about some of these concepts at the beginning of my internet career, it allowed me to go from thinking about just like working my ass off in order to make money in my business to, how to design a machine that will take over for some, if not all, of the things that I need to do in the business, other than building more machines or maintaining them, right? And so it gave me an enormous amount of freedom to be, I think about each NPod a lot. Like in my mind, I just imagine an NPod, whether it's for one business or an NPod style business model for several different businesses and several different niches, or serving different markets. I like to think of them as vending machines, and someone else restocks the vending machines and collects the money and deposits it in the bank for me. Right. And each new vending machine I build might be better than the last one, and maybe it has better stuff in it, and it lasts a little bit longer, and people like it more, so they spend more money with it. But they're always out there, and they're generating money in the background. It could be a series of these little, invisible vending machines that are all serving one market and one group of people, which I prefer now. Back in the day, I used to spin up new businesses and new companies and new niches and new markets every 5 minutes, and that stuff's hard to maintain with all those different markets and all those different businesses and all the different domain names. It's very hard to maintain that much stuff. So I prefer now building NPods and building these models within my one primary market, ideally, and then every now and again I veer off. But it's really good stuff, and it really does apply, and it makes a huge difference between whether or not you get in a long-term growth curve or whether you just consistently plateau out and get stuck.
Right. And it's not good or bad. It just is what it is, right? I mean, it just is the process. I mean, in fact, I believe it's a rite of passage, so to speak, in terms of going through it. And, remember when funnel hacking was all the phase, where, all the craze, where you would, hack the next thing. And that was great because it got us linear leverage, rapid prototyping, right? When you're in that rainmaker and growth duplicator mode, that's where, you've got rapid prototyping going on, where you got proof of concept, and you're figuring out what else works in the general world out there, and how to hack it for your needs to be able to apply it into your world. But at a certain point, that wears out, and you can't continue to hack, funnels unless you have a systematic approach that really creates the environment of the back and forth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do. We have all sorts of people chiming in on some of the different platforms that are saying hi. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Luba. Hello, Luba, and John Romanello. Hello. And Tony. How's it going, Tony? Good to see you, my friend. And Joshua, I know that you're in the middle of this kind of like pretty cool process that you've mapped out. We do have some comments and questions whenever you're ready.
Yeah, man. Actually, this is the journey that I wanted to map out yesterday, and I think I've done it adequate justice today. So, we can start diving into some specifics if you want, and we can go back to the shared screen if you want, and take it from there.
That'd be awesome. Let me just go.
Okay.
And then there we are.
There I am.
Cool.
There you are.
So we have some questions about funnels in general. I don't know that we have questions specifically relating to what you just covered yet.
That's fine.
Think people are probably absorbing it, taking it in, thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm in the process of making it simpler.
Yeah. So we have a question in from Jacqueline and one from Jean on funnels.
Okay.
So I'm just going to lay it down, and we can answer this as appropriate. So which is better on a sales page? Start with a big ticket bundle or start with small and build up to it?
It's like asking how long should your legs be? Long enough to reach the ground.
Okay.
The question is, now we're talking about a linear leverage type question, right? The real thing to consider is what type of a business model are you looking to create? And
right.
So like for right now, what Talman and I are working on, and what we have a very expensive consulting program. And so, but that is our first sale, and that is our only sale, frankly. So we've got a different process in place to give value, to build relationship, to attract the right people, to distribute the right insights so that they come along and evolve in the right way. And those that are ready and capable of it can now start with a big ticket item, which they're not really starting with, because we're giving away, the training and the materials that we're giving away to get people to that point are actually, we each could be selling these things for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, in a collaboration approach. So I wouldn't ask the question, which is better or which should I do, is what is your model? And, generally speaking, it's easier, not necessarily true all the time, but it's easier to sell a small ticket item and, ratchet yourself up from there. However, what you will find is that the people that you deal with at a smaller ticket, and again, it depends on the market. It depends, I'm talking general terms here, and I'm making a gross generalization that you really need to test and check.
Right.
And, at the end of the day, you need to build the model that you want to build for you, for your business, with the end result in mind, whatever that looks like for you. If you want an income for life marketing engine behind it, then you're going to want to deploy this process to eventually turn it into a business asset, and operate from those grounds through that process. Now, how you get there, there's a million different ways and then some, and oh, wait a minute, another new million different ways have just appeared and elaborated. But if you have a filter for where it is that you say you want to go, and what that means to you and what you want to have for clients and who you're optimizing for, what you're optimizing for, and how that looks at the end of the day in terms of the type of business, then you now have the ability to filter and decide and make those decisions based on that. You know, when you find a new funnel or when you find a new piece, does this fit with my overall strategy? Rather than, as I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing, particularly right now, is they abandon everything to go for what's hot and working right now, regardless of whether that's going to serve their bigger image or, you know, picture for what they want to accomplish with their business or not. And there's a prime example of reverse compounding taking hold there because it's working against you. So
let me give you like 2 examples of this, Jacqueline, just to kind of bring it into perspective, because this is very important. Is you do need to decide on the business model that you want to build and the lifestyle, at least that you're striving for. Right now, it may not be what you end up with exactly, but it can be eventually. But along the way, what are you aiming at, right? And so, here are 2 examples. They're radically different, but they directly address your question. One example is I'm only going to teach like high-level psychokinesis and mind techniques to wealthy individuals. And it's going to be $1,000 a month. I'm only going to work with 10 clients. That way I'm going to make $10,000 a month. And I love doing private consultation / strategy session style sales calls. I've been trained in how to do that, and I know how to sell high tickets. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a $10,000 a month business. I'm going to get 10 clients at $1,000 a month, and I'm going to teach them high-level mind stuff. You could do that, right? Another way would be like, I really hate talking to people. I really don't want to have to deal with any customers myself if I can possibly avoid it. So I want to make $10,000 a month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a low-cost spoon bending monthly program that's $10 a month, and I'm going to get 1,000 people in there at $10 a month, and every week, I'm going to create a new super cool 30-minute training video that's going to teach people new mind-bending techniques, you know, or whatever, psychokinesis techniques. And I'm never, ever going to have to talk to a single customer because people freak me the fuck out, and I'm not willing to talk to anybody. So, right, so that would be low cost, $10 a month versus high cost, $1,000 a month, private sales calls versus writing sales copy to get people into your program. It's a totally different business. Same customers, same type of information you're teaching, totally different business. What do you want?
Same marketplace.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if it's the same customers. That remains to be seen yet.
Okay, well, it's interested in the same stuff, right?
Yeah, same market. I mean, you know.
And I guess with that said, right, with all of this said, it's like, what should you do? I mean, a big piece of it that can give you a lot of clarity, we were talking about the idea of funnel hacking earlier, is business modeling. And what I mean by that is who already has the business that you want. And I don't want to flip an answer. You got Geller, maybe not. Okay. Whoever the person is, they don't even need to be necessarily in your industry. Okay, they don't necessarily need to be teaching anything that has to do with woo-woo anything. But it's going to be probably easier for you to model if it is a little woo-woo. And look at their business and be like, okay, well, how are they operating, right? Get on 10 or 20 or 30 lists of your competitors / colleagues who are great marketers and just read every email they have, get on every webinar they do, get in their Facebook groups, follow them everywhere, and look at what they're doing and who has the kind of business that you want to have. And that's a really easy way to tell you, look, I want a business like this person. I want to look, feel, I want to act kind of like them. I want it to run kind of like them. It's playing to similar strengths that I have. This seems like a good direction to go. That also can give you an indicator of some of the types of funnels that you should try first.
I wanted to speak to this for just a second because this came up before with Jacqueline previously, and she answered Tony Robbins. And what I would like to point out is that you got to be careful of is that if you duplicate the type of funnels that he has, it probably will not work for you because he has the 30 plus years of branding behind him and his reputation and all of that, so he doesn't have to work nearly as hard as somebody just breaking in to that same space would have to work, and so he can get away with different types of approaches.
I'd also like to point out he has a massive series of teams for all of his different companies that help him to run these pieces. I don't think you would want his business because you wouldn't have the capability of running it. Like that's what I mean. Who has the business you actually want? Like, do you really want to be in meetings all the time and just like dealing with high-level corporate executives all day long? Because if you do, then welcome to Tony Robbins. Right? Like,
great
time
point.
meetings all day. Great. Sounds really fun.
Gene's asked some really great questions. If I didn't interrupt you, I would like to, help Gene out a bit.
Totally. Go for it. I was just going to start pulling her questions up next.
Awesome. So let's start with the beginning one, which if you could put on whatever shows up, should I go ahead and create the landing pages?
Yep.
Or
So should
Go
I
ahead.
go ahead and create the landing pages or start getting them set up for my affiliate offers? I want to create videos of my reviewing and or using the products eventually. Or will that take me off track, which never happens?
You want me to answer?
Sure, I just monologued for a while. Go for it.
Gene, I recommend that you follow, as a NPod client of ours, that you follow the blueprint that we've laid out for you. And until you've got that, in place, don't screw around with anything else. So, we've got, you still have to get the invitational process going. You still got to get the group process going. You still got to get the X Factor stuff in place. And once you've got that, then we can, you now have a true business asset that is now not only building, but as you feed new people into it, new people coming in at a level of awareness, they become part of the engine and they pop out the other side with a greater awareness, more willing to be influenced by your references, whatever that looks like, for whatever that is. And that happens with systematic certainty. Then you have that is now an engine, right? So go ahead, Telman, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I totally agree 100%. Definitely keep following the process with NPod and don't get like lost in the weeds with other random stuff. But the next question that Gene was asking, I think, is really closely related to her first question.
Okay.
Which is about our email sequence and, again, direct links. And so the question was, I'm working on my welcome email sequence.
Okay.
How do I share a direct link to something specific? A post in my group? ? I can't figure that out. Does that work only for videos? Okay, so I'm going to just tell you how I would do this. And there's not only one way. You're dealing with multiple mediums, okay? And just like Paint, you can do whatever the fuck you want, okay? You can try all sorts of crazy stuff and different things will work. So as you're playing with this, just realize your Facebook group posts, for Facebook Live videos, your emails that you're sending out, all these different things, they're just like paint and brushes. They're just, you can be creative within them, right? The way I would do this is if like you were going to do how do I share a direct link to something specific? Okay.
Can you just share your screen and show how you can pull up an individual post? Because the answer to your question, Gene, is you can do it with anything in Facebook.
Right. So, well, here's how I would do it. Is like if I was going to do a video where I was painting something and showing off and I was selling the paint or the paint brushes that I was using, I like, for example, I might do a Facebook Live video and do the painting and, really talk about how awesome the paint and the paintbrushes were. And then at an appropriate point in the video, I would already have my affiliate links, assuming it's an affiliate program, set up, ideally running through tracking links so you know how many people actually click on those. And I would pop them into the comments in the middle of your Facebook broadcast. That's it. And or if you wanted to write a long copy Facebook description beforehand, before you went live, that also had those links in it, you also could do that. And so you could link up directly from the description, and you can link in the comments at appropriate times. After the video was done, I would turn around and write an email, and I would link people directly from the email back to the video. I might put the video in the group if that's appropriate and there are enough people in the group for it to make a difference. And yeah, so you can link from the comments, from the description, from the email directly. It really depends on in almost every medium, not everyone, but in almost every medium, there's always a place to put a link.
You have to play around with it. I'm looking right through it now, Gene, to try to tell you there isn't a blanket thing, but like, how when you click into the group, for example, the Art of Email Marketing group, and you click on the video, one of our live stream videos in there, and it takes you to a different page, kind of like an overlay, if you will. Well, what ends up happening is that at the top there, that is a different link up there. And the same thing happens with any post. You can actually pull that specific URL and link directly to that. So it's a solo thing, or it's pointed to that. You're going to have to fish around for it, but it is absolutely not only possible, advisable.
That's right. Awesome. And Gene, this is one of the benefits of our Thursday calls, because we can just deal with this directly and find out exactly what your situation is, look at your screen and walk through it with you. So if you don't have this dialed in by Thursday, definitely bring it up. That'd be great. Jacqueline says that every online business person would benefit by listening to or working with both of us. Thank you, Jacqueline. Much appreciated.
Yep.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns that you guys have right now or would like any assistance with? If you're looking to, so if what we're talking about here today is interesting and you like the idea of really figuring out where you're at in your business, are you in the income today phase? Are you in the income tomorrow phase? Are you in the income for life phase, right? And what do you need in order to move past those plateaus? What adjustments in your thinking, what adjustments in your business model, what adjustments in your business structure and or your team or some of your systems that you have set up do you need in order to really get this humming for you, right? And we'd be happy to have a chat about that. So Joshua, what do you want to do from here? Do you want to drive people to Penny a day? Do you think people should just schedule, just reach out to us individually, and we should have a chat in Messenger? What would make the most sense for you?
Let's do both. If you know that you want to have a private, consult session with us to figure out how to apply this to your specific situation. Obviously, there's no obligation, but we're of course doing this so that we're willing to spend the time and give thousands of dollars worth of our time and energy to give a blueprinting conversation with you, is because we want to see if this is something that you'd be interested in working with us on as an NPOD client of ours. But there's no obligation or and frankly, not everybody qualifies for what we're looking for. But we will still do our best to help you, get past where you are right now and move to your next level, whatever that might be for you. And if it so happens that it's a match for you to work directly with us as an NPOD client, we'd love to have you. And if not, that's cool too. So with that, if you know you're in that boat, I would recommend that you reach out to Telman or myself via DM us directly, and just tell us that you'd like to, to schedule a private consult with us, and one of the or the both of us will make some time to see how or if we can help you. And on the other hand, if you want to go deeper, like on the compounding issue and the reverse compounding and the penny a day cliche stuff, then you can go over, and I don't have that link handy. And frankly, when I posted it yesterday, I got flagged by Facebook because I posted it just the link in all three areas really fast.
Oops.
And so they said, sorry, and they slapped my hand. So Telman, if you wouldn't mind getting that link and just posting it in there, that is a really long form article that gives you insights into the specific barriers that you may be dealing with that you need to think about and consider. And then at the end of that, there's an opportunity to take advantage of our diagnostic tool, our assessment that will give you more insights and help you to decipher a little bit better. And then from there, if you would like to see if you qualify for a private consult with us, then you can do so as well.
Awesome.
So
link forthcoming. Stand by. Just, Facebook.
Cool.
Unusually.
Yeah, I was finding the same thing
for some reason. All right, here we go. All right, this should work. This should work. Boom. All right. We'll do oh, no, that's not going to work. Hold on.
No, you put it in the chat, or?
No, it's more complicated than that. I just got this mega long Facebook URL is all. So I'm going to do this instead.
Oh, yeah. Just if you go gogo.ist/pod or no, penny PAD-cliche.
All right, that worked. Cool. Check it. All right. All right, I'm gonna pop that in there for a few of you guys. So check it out. And in the meantime, I think that's probably about it for today, huh, Joshua?
Yeah, boy.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to evolving this and making it simpler and simpler and simpler and getting better at teaching this. So any insights as people go through this themselves again and maybe watch it, a second time or whatever, and any questions that now after it gets a chance to soak in, I would greatly appreciate any, feedback or questions so that I can fine tune what I'm doing here and make it even clearer and more useful to everybody.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Joshua. And we will see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp.
Thanks, Telman. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.